Welcome to Rockin' the Planet. I'm Shane. I'm so glad you could join me here to celebrate more of the great wealth of New Zealand talent. This week, my special guest is an accomplished author, music historian, a musician and frontman for brilliant R&B band Brillo, Mr. Graham Clark. But before we get down to brass tacks, let's see who's been rocking the planet this week. Just days after announcing a mammoth tour of the USA, to begin in August 2016, where he is to co-headline with ZZ Top, rocker Greg Allman, through no fault of his own, was nearly written off in a spectacular bus crash. There were 10 band members and crew in the bus when the driver suddenly got a choking fit. I don't know what he was smoking. It caused him to lose control and veer across the motorway into oncoming traffic, then through a guardrail before rolling down a steep embankment. Amazingly, only 3 of the passengers were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Greg Allman must be one hell of a lucky man. He escaped without a scratch, and in good old showbiz tradition, the show went on in Charleston that night. ZZ Top and Greg Allman, what a show that would be. I would love to be there. Anyway, here now it's time for my special guest, a man who spends a lot of time on the road himself. He's the frontman for Brillo, brilliant band. Graham Clark, how are you, mate?
Very good.
Good
nice
to see you,
here,
buddy.
Shane.
Welcome. Now, this is a historical event because we've been trying to get this together for I don't know how many years. And I've got to let the people in on the secret straight away because I'm thrilled to have you here because we go back so far without even knowing it. And the story was that you grew up in the same house as I did in England.
That's correct.
Now, in Guildford in Surrey.
Yes. 14 Hillspur Road.
Yeah, 14, don't forget that. Go and visit it. It's a little council house in Westborough, Guildford, Surrey. And I grew up there and I emigrated to Australia with my family late 59, early 60, and 1960. And we left, and of course your
My
family.
parents moved into that house.
Yeah.
Your old bedroom became my bedroom.
Exactly. Now, the funny thing about this is you had no idea about me or anything, no knowledge of me living there right through your school years.
No.
Until you emigrated to NZ?
Tauranga, yes.
To Tauranga.
Yes.
You and your family. So
Yes.
tell me about that. You uplifted and...
Yes, Mum and Dad just decided that they'd like a better life for their children, so they...
As we did.
Yeah, and so they, without knowing a single soul, they emigrated to New Zealand. And my father took his car to England,
Yeah.
to New Zealand.
He bought his car, yeah.
And he needed to get it steam cleaned for the quarantine. So he went there, but the people said, "No, we're really busy. We can't help you." And Dad said, "Oh, I'm stranded here. I've got to get back to Tauranga." And he said, "Oh, I just can't help you. We're just too busy." And so my dad said, "Oh, where are you from in England anyway?" And this chap said, "Oh, I'm from a little place in the south of England called Guildford." And Dad said, "That's funny, so am I." And he said, "Whereabouts in Guildford?" And this chap said, "Hillspur Road." And my father said, "That's where we lived." And anyway, they put two and two together. And
so the two met there.
Yes.
In a emigrational thing, cleaning the car. My father was the guy cleaning the car.
That's correct.
Or the cars, and saying, "No, I can't do it, I'm too busy." And suddenly he's doing it for you?
Yes, then he said to Dad, "Let me just see what I can do for you."
Yeah.
And
he got his car
he got
done.
the car done, and Dad drove down to Tauranga in the car.
Amazing. So then he came home to you and said, "Guess what? I've met the father of Shane." And this is 1969, of course.
Yes. Well, you were just...
We had a huge year.
You had just hit the big time there.
Yeah, we had a #1 record going and all that sort of thing. So
he told my mother and the family that he had met the people who lived in 14 Hillspur Road before us, and that their son had become quite the New Zealand pop star.
Isn't it?
With a great hit, and there it was on the radio.
Yeah.
And
you were the people that moved into our house when we left and emigrated to Australia and then came to New Zealand.
Mm.
That's just
such a coincidence.
Coincidence and amazing match of things that happen, just bumping into each other. And
yes.
So So did I leave any of my Cliff Richard and the Shadows pin-ups on the wall, or Johnny Kidd and the Pirates? All the
I'll
rock and
tell
roll
you,
singers?
if you had, I'd still have them in my possession today. But I think it must have been the ghosts of the music that you played in that room.
I did play Singing the Blues by Tommy Steele on
Oh.
a 78 record. I used to
Yes.
put them on and terrorise the neighbours with a 78, and
Yes.
his master's voice with the trumpet sort of horn on it. And you'd have to wind it up. I never felt more like singing the blues. Well, I never felt more like singing the
It's just such a coincidence, Shane. I still find it hard to believe that,
Yeah, we're here.
we couldn't be further
Further away
away
from
in
each
the
other.
world, and to meet up and to have those coincidences.
in New Zealand. It's just bizarre.
And then, of course, you were already a pop star. I hadn't even begun playing music until I was about 25 years
So
old.
you started quite late.
I
There was a
did.
reason for that. You played soccer
I was
first.
busy playing football, yes.
Yes.
That was
That's
my
right,
whole
yeah.
life. And then
But you loved your music. anyway.
absolutely, I had been given a good grounding in it by my auntie
Yeah.
and my grandfather, my grandfather used to, I used to stay with my grandfather every weekend, and he used to walk down to his local pub and do a turn there,
And then stay
singing,
home.
and then we'd stagger back to his house afterwards, singing all the way, and then he'd sit me down and play me all his old reel-to-reel tapes of Jimmy Rogers and Hank Snow.
Oh, the
So-
wonderful country music.
Yes, so I got this, and then my auntie, she was much younger, she played the Beatles and Elvis, and I had a big stack of her records that I used to play
So
incessantly.
you got really involved in your music.
Well,
so
I was given a good grounding. I saw a band play in Tauranga when I was about 25 years old, and I looked at this guy on the stage and I went, wow, I want to do that.
Can I ask who the band was?
Yeah, they were called Every Mother's Son.
Okay.
They were just a local band,
Yeah,
Shane.
yeah,
They
yeah,
weren't.
yeah.
They,
I was curious.
actually, they were very good.
Yeah.
In fact, they're all top musicians in the Tauranga area still.
Yeah.
But I saw the singer, and he just had the crowd in the palm of his hands,
Yeah.
packed bar, and I just went to myself, wow, I want to do that. I didn't even know if I could sing or not.
Yeah. Oh, you say you didn't realise
No,
you're singing
I'd
ability or
never sung a
anything?
note, honestly,
At
apart from
25
with
years
my
old, so
granddad.
you started quite late in the
Yes.
piece, so it must have been a rapid rise to fame because you've jumped in. I mean, can I ask you your age now?
58.
Okay, young, just a baby, just a baby.
Oh, I wish
All
I
right,
felt it.
58. So, you started quite late in the piece, but so did you form a band immediately, or did you say, well, how am I going to get into this game?
I did form a band. Well, after that night, the couple of the guys I was with said, one said, oh, I've got a bass, and one said, well, I've got drums. Let's have a jam. Well, I didn't know what a jam was. But anyway, I thought I was in for it.
Strawberry?
Only, you're in for anything in those days.
Yeah.
So, so ended up having a jam. The first song I ever sung was Jumping Jack Flash.
Well, there you go.
And away we went. And I thought, oh, I quite like this.
Yeah.
This is good fun. So I'd like to play in the pubs, but it were not ready. So I talked the local Chinese restaurant into giving my well-experienced band a residency in the Chinese restaurant.
Free meal every night.
Yes, and that's how we learnt to play.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a PA was. We learnt
First song you played was Chopsticks?
Nah,
Go on.
we learnt to plug in a PA. We started off playing a lot of cabaret stuff. And then when we had sort of thought we were doing quite well, then we...
Slow Boat to China. I'm trying to think of all the songs.
Yeah, all the Chinese songs. Then we booked a gig in the pub.
Yeah, a gig in a pub,
Yeah.
And so that's how it progressed anyway.
Yes.
And then, but I mean, over the years, all right, we all start somewhere, but you've moved on immensely, and things have happened for you. You've worked internationally now with your
Yes.
band. You've really taken a hold of the blues, the British style of blues.
Yes.
But it's got a Kiwi flavour.
Absolutely.
With the band Brillo.
Yes.
Anyway, you've moved on a long way now. I mean, you've been playing in your bands, but you formed your own band, Brillo.
Yes.
And it's Brillo. I mean, you named that after someone very famous, I believe.
Yes, named it after Lee Brillo, who was the lead singer from the band Dr. Feelgood,
Yeah, I love that band.
who I met in New Zealand, and I got to play with them twice.
In the UK?
in New Zealand.
Oh, in New Zealand?
He invited me up onto stage to play
harmonica.
He walked up, I was walking off the dance floor, and he came off stage, walked up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You can play this, can't you? Would you like to do the encore with us?"
Fantastic. And you jumped. And how did it go down? Fantastic.
Oh, it's really hard to play these when you've got a grin splitting your face in half.
And a dry mouth from
yes. But I did it. So that was the first time. And the second time, I didn't want to feel like I was stalking them or something. I was standing well back, about 10, 15 rows back in the crowd. And he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a special guest tonight." And he couldn't remember my name because...
what the hell?
And he just pointed out in the crowd. And we all sort of turned round and he said, "No, you."
You?
Me. And so the crowd sort of moved and I walked up the front and jumped up on the stage.
And Lee Brillo being the front, and he's a harmonica player himself.
Yes.
And he's a great singer and he rocks out. And you've taken hold of that British R&B thing.
Style,
the blues style. And it's a very specialised style. Believe me, I love it more than the American blues. I've got to say, it's got an energy that they don't have, you know.
Well, that's how it came about, Shane.
Yeah.
It was because in the early 60s when those English kids first discovered that American blues, they loved it, but they hadn't suffered the hardships.
That's right.
And that kind of thing that those black Americans had suffered, but they still played the music. So they didn't have the right attitude, but they had more energy. They played it with energy and enthusiasm, and that's turned into the British beat boom.
It has, and we're going to see some of that energy now with Brillo. You fronting Brillo.
Yes.
With one of your own original songs, and it is absolutely amazing. The energy, you feel it. It'll come out of the TV screen and bite you, I'm telling you. And this is Brillo, fronted by Graham Clark, harmonica, guitar, all the stuff. It's really happening, and it's called
Welcome to the Brillo Show.
There you go. Can't go wrong with that, can you?
On my skin. Welcome to the Brillo Show. Something that you got to see. Welcome to the Brillo Show. Maximum R&B. Maximum R&B. That's what that thing there is for.
Welcome to the Brillo Show, and it certainly is that tonight. Rockin' the Planet is certainly pushing Brillo. What a band, aren't they? You've got a magic. I've got to say that, see, the energy just flies out of the screen at you. It's lovely. And harmonica playing. Now, I've got to ask you about harmonica. Would you give me a little bit of a few notes on it? It's
sure.
Now, you've spent years learning your craft on the harmonica.
Yes, I bluff my way through pretty much.
Oh yeah, but
You've had a number of amazing harmonica players on here, particularly Craig Bracken
Craig
from the
Bracken
Flaming Mudcats.
They're a great blues band. They're in the same sort of genre, same band as you, same style.
Yes, they play American rhythm and blues.
But they're also taking Coles to Newcastle. They're doing the same as you. You're going off on tour overseas. You're going back to the UK again for your third visit.
Third visit,
and you're going to Italy this time.
We are this year off to Italy as well.
So you've got all this coming up. And then you've got them, they're going to America and taking the place to Mississippi, home of the blues.
Yes.
So it's fantastic that here in New Zealand we are breeding great blues musicians, isn't it?
We are. Well, Craig is certainly a top harmonica player, so I do not profess to be as competent as...
Craig.
But I have a different approach.
Okay, Craig, well, put your fingers in yours if you have to.
Yes.
But he's going to play
Sorry, Craig.
I know it's going to be great anyway, so just give us a few notes and see how you feel.
Okay. I'll do a little John Mayall,
Perfect.
keeping it in the British vein.
Many fans here, John Mayall.
It may seem peculiar, just what I say to you. If you love me, darling, here's what you must do. You've got to free me, 'cause I can't give my best unless I got room to move.
Whoa! Well, man, that is fantastic. Look, I'm sure he enjoyed it.
Oh.
You can take your fingers out your ears. You missed a really good playing there. Now,
yes.
we won't talk about him all night because we'll have him on the show later in the year. It's all about you tonight.
It's all about me. I'm happy about that.
Apart from being an accomplished musician, like guitar, you're playing harmonica and you're fronting the band, vocals, you're writing a lot of great songs, blues songs. You've also been quite an author. And you've accomplished something a lot of New Zealanders haven't done. It's taken an Englishman to come over here and write all about Tauranga's musical history.
Yes.
And it's a book called The Right Note. It is by Graham Clark, of course. There is the book. If you can see that, I don't know. Look, it's a fabulous book. I mean, it's absolutely... The weight is enough. I mean, you get your money's worth by holding it. And you've sold, what, hundreds of copies of this, I believe?
have, yes.
And you've got about 80 left?
I have, yes, just down to the last 80.
Now, there's a lot of work in there. As an author, I mean, what made you write about the Tauranga, history of Tauranga music? You just feel it was not really noted down and it really needed to be told, the story?
Well, I started by accident, really. I went to a friend's house and I knew that he was a musician. And I went into his house anyway, and there was a couple of really interesting looking photographs on the wall of these four hairy looking hippies, and I said, oh, who are these guys? And he said, oh, that's my band from back in 1970 something. I said, wow, so you were actually hit the big time, you did? And he said, yes, I was in Blurter, and I said, wow. And that struck a note with me that I didn't understand. His name was Ali Matthews.
Okay.
He's a drummer.
Yeah.
Him and Alan Moon, they were in a band called Sons and Lovers.
Okay, I've heard of
And they
them.
used to play in Wellington at Alibaba's. And so I didn't realise that there was this level of musicians. So
the more you dug, the more
yes,
you
the
found.
more I dug, the more gold was rising to the surface. And to tell you, Shane, I am absolutely blown away by the information that has come out of just one little area of Tauranga.
Yeah, and the whole thing.
The 4/4s started there. 4/4s, of course, became the Human Instinct.
Human Instinct.
And I have all of these photographs of the first Tauranga nightclub, the early coffee bars.
Well, I went down there and worked in there in my early days, 1965 I'm talking about, and the 4/4s were playing as our support act, and I was in a group called the Pleasers, and Trevor Spitz, the drummer, was the promoter. He sold orange juice and coffee behind the bar.
Yes.
He took the money on the door, $10,
Oh, he's
whatever it
quite
was.
an entrepreneur, that boy.
Entrepreneur, you wouldn't
Yes.
believe it. And then he played drums all night in between our sets, you know. And he was running around, and he was paying us. We all got paid. I think he paid us peanuts, but good on him. I mean, that was the start, and he became quite an entrepreneur through the years,
yes.
and ran a lot of shows and things. But
Well, the 4/4s, I mean, when Ray Columbus was actually had a residency in Auckland here, I think it was the Platterack,
the top 20,
the top 20.
yeah, and the Shirley.
And then when they went to Australia, the 4/4s took their place as the resident band in that top.
They
Auckland
moved into
spot.
and they went into the Platterack. They were there for
Yes.
a long time.
They were earning more money there playing music than they were in regular jobs.
Yeah, well, that's happened for me. It's just the same. I was very lucky to be at that era when there were, you know, you could open a club on a Monday night. You could open it 5 nights a week. You know, it would be packed every night. Whereas these days, you're working out on Saturday night to get a crowd.
Yeah.
Not so bad for us oldies because we've got our followings and that. But the young people now, it's just a nightclub to go. Well, let's go party. You know. It's not the same. They don't have that same musical love of music that we had, not in the same sense. And they played real music then anyway. So,
that's true.
And you're still playing it.
I am.
But okay, well look, we're going to get you to play a real song by a Rolling Stones. I believe it came out on Beggar's Banquet many moons ago. But it's a classic, good old, very unknown Rolling Stones song, I'd say these days. Quite a rare one.
I usually say it's the first and last time you'll ever get to hear me play a waltz.
Yeah, well, it's a
because
good old.
it is.
It is, and it's called "Dear Doctor, I'm in Trouble."
Oh, help me, please, doctor, I'm damaged. There's pain where the once was the heart. It's sleeping, it's a beating. Can you please tear it out and preserve it right there in that jar? Oh, help me, please, mama, I'm sickening. For today is the day of the crunch. For the gal I'm to marry is a bow-legged sow, and I've been soaking up drink like a sponge. Don't you worry, get dressed, clap my mama as she plied me with bourbon so sour. Pull your socks up, put the shoes on, comb your long hair down, for you will be wet in the hour. I was trembling as I put on my jacket. It had creases as sharp as a knife. I put the ring in my pocket, and there was a note, and my heart had jumped into my mouth. It said, Kane, I'm sorry to hurt you, but I've no courage to speak to your face. But I'm down in Virginia with your cousin Lou, and there'll be no wedding today. So help me, please, doctor, I'm damaged. You can't put back my heart, it is whole. Oh, mama, I'm crying, tears of relief. My heart is now under control.
Dear Doctor, whoa! I love that version of the Rolling Stones song. I hadn't heard it for so long. I had to stop myself singing along with it, mate. Didn't I ruin it for you?
You could have joined in.
No, but I just thought, I'll keep quiet. But yeah, great to hear you doing Rolling Stones. It probably influenced you a lot over the years. But I want to get back to the book now. This is such a huge thing for Tauranga and the history of Tauranga. You know, the writing, the time it took. I mean, it must have taken you months and months. How many years?
Yeah, 8.
8 years. Do you think you've got another 8 years in you to start on another city? Do regional versions? around the country?
No, I wrote this because initially, based upon my own knowledge of musicians and the music scene, but it soon progressed beyond that
Yeah.
because for the treasure that I was digging up, I found out that I actually didn't know a lot about the music scene because so much I was uncovering.
So you start, what, around about the early 60s?
Yes, although it does go back, the first band is 1937,
Oh, there you go.
which from a Māori Rockin
Yeah,
band.
so you've gone right back to
Yes, but pretty much the bulk
Yeah.
of it starts in the 60s.
when the electrics came in and stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
the band in Tauranga to have the very first electric bass guitar
Oh, there you go. I didn't even know that myself.
No.
So who had that?
in the 4/4s.
Oh, was it really?
It was, yeah. I don't have the energy or the knowledge to write about any other
Yeah.
regions. However,
It wore you out.
yes, I've started writing a new book, and I'm writing Richie Pickett's biography.
Now that's an interesting story. There's no end of material for that.
That's right. That'll be in the X-rated section
yeah,
of the
wonderful
library.
Richie, yeah.
But a book about a wonderful and dear friend of mine,
I was going to say now,
a New
you were
Zealand
friends?
icon,
Yeah.
and I do not want him to be forgotten.
No, he won't be
deserves to be
forgotten.
remembered.
Yeah, that's interesting. You worked with Richie
I
over
worked
the years?
with Richie, yes, and was close personal
He touched a
friends
lot of
with him.
souls in New Zealand, musical souls anyway. I mean, we all love Richie. I've
Yes.
worked with him and I've got stories to tell, and I know that in the book, the new book about Richie, you've got a lot of people have come to the party and
Yes,
given you a lot of stories.
I've approach to this biography. I've researched and written, going way to
Yeah.
when he was born, and then after that, I've invited all of his very close friends who did a lot of work with him to contribute a story of their personal memoirs
Yeah.
concerning him. So you read his whole story, then
Then
from
you
that
can read-
part, then you'll read these individual memoirs,
Yeah.
and they will relate back into
course.
the story.
Yeah, it's going to be a wonderful book, and we're
Yes.
looking when you're going to. When do you sort of figure out you might have that ready?
When it's finished.
I know it's a hard
Yes.
graft, isn't it?
Possibly
Another
end
year.
of the year.
Yeah.
End of the year. But,
Oh, you see, you're well on the way with it. Wonderful book, anyway. But anyway, Graham, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show, mate. I wish you all the success in Europe while you're over there. Come back and see me and tell me all about it when you get back.
Will do.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Well, that's all we can squeeze in here on Rockin' the Planet this week. But we'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, keep on rockin'.